Okay, today we live in a world that moves at a pace our inner lives cannot match. You wake up, and before you even breathe fully, there are notifications, emails to answer, metrics to meet, expectations to uphold. Everyone is pushing forward, but no one seems to know exactly where they're going. And in the middle of that storm, there's you quietly wondering, what is the point of all this? If everything is judged by results, how do you ever find peace? If purpose depends on outcome, what happens when the outcome fails? Zeno lost everything in a shipwreck. Epictetus was born into slavery. Seneca stood in the violent arena of Roman politics. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire plagued by war and disease. Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, "You have the right to your work, but not to the fruits of your labor." The Stoics echo this across time and geography. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter," to rivers flowing toward the same sea of wisdom. When you stop clinging to outcomes, you act with more courage. We prepare, we show up, but opportunity arrives or doesn't on its own schedule. Our job is the preparation, the intention, the effort. That's what belongs to us. That's where peace begins. So what does it mean to live with purpose and let go of results? It means choosing values over victories. It means waking up and asking, what is mine to do today, and doing it with quiet devotion. It means loving the process enough to release the outcome. It's standing in your truth, even when no one's watching, even when nothing changes, because the act itself is aligned with who you are, and that is enough. More peace, more power, because you're not gambling your identity on what happens next. Would I still do it if no one ever knew? If I failed entirely, could I still respect who I became? These are not questions to rush through. They are seeds you plant in silence. You're rooted in the present moment, doing what's yours to do and letting the rest go. What did they find in the chaos? A kind of stillness, a discipline of mind and heart. They taught that you cannot control the world, but you can govern yourself. You can live in accordance with logos, the reasoned, moral order of things, and in that alignment, you find peace. This is Stoic Dharma, and today, we're going to explore something that touches the deepest question of modern life. Can you act with full presence and let go of the result? Doing what's right, not for reward or avoidance of pain, but because it is right. Epictetus said it simply, "Seek not that events should happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." In other words, act well and release the need to control how the world responds. Can you give life your energy, your care, your intention, but not let your soul be chained to success or failure? The other is paved with validation, but demands you always win. You can't control whether your effort leads to success, but you can always choose to show up with integrity. You're trained to believe your worth is measured by what happens after you act. So when the praise doesn't come, or the result falls short, you feel invisible, maybe even ashamed. But here's the question, what if the action was enough? What if showing up, fully and faithfully, was its own kind of fulfillment? You can be diligent, fair, truthful, and let go of whether the world rewards you. The moment you do, you are no longer a prisoner of fortune. You are no longer chasing shadows, you are free. It's not just duty, not just rules. Dharma is the quiet thread that connects who you are with what you're meant to do. It's your role in the great unfolding of life, something not assigned by the world, but born within you. To live your Dharma is to act in alignment with your nature, regardless of reward or recognition. It's sacred, not strategic, and it changes everything. You want to choose wisely, but fear creeps in. It's about being honest with your path. A tree grows toward the sun, not because it wants applause, but because that's what trees do. A river doesn't flow to impress the ocean. It flows because it must. When you find your Dharma, your inner direction, you stop chasing outcomes. You begin to serve something deeper. You act not to win, but because acting rightly is its own reward. You worrying that if you let go of results, you'll fall behind, be forgotten, or worse, feel like a failure. Yet deep down, something in you whispers, there must be a better way to live. That whisper is what we're listening to today. That's what the Stoics taught. That's what the ancient sages of India taught. That's what we'll walk through together in the next few minutes. A path where doing what's right is enough. A path where you live with purpose, and then release your grip on how things turn out. Imagine yourself at a quiet crossroads. One path is lined with duty and meaning, but carries no promise of reward. In ancient Indian philosophy, there's a word for this way of being: Dharma. Dharma is not about being the best. Now let's turn westward, toward Greece and Rome, where Stoicism emerged through lives shaped by hardship. The Stoics called it apatheia, not indifference, but emotional clarity. It meant acting from integrity rather than impulse. Here's where the two philosophies meet. Hindu Dharma and Stoic Detachment converge in one profound idea: your job is the action, not the outcome. It's a liberating truth. You can't control whether others appreciate your kindness. But let's be honest, it isn't easy. The modern world is obsessed with outcomes. Likes, shares, promotions, metrics. The Stoics didn't teach detachment to make you passive. They taught it so you could act without fear. Seneca once wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." But even that, he reminds us, is outside our hands. You might ask yourself, am I doing this because I believe in it or because I want to be seen? Because the way you answer gently, honestly shapes the life you're quietly building, and that life is waiting for you to choose it. Long before Stoicism or self-help books, there was a story whispered across the banks of the Ganges: a warrior named Arjuna, standing in his chariot, torn between duty and despair. Before him stretched a battlefield filled with his own kin, menors, and friends. It wasn't even about war, it was about alignment, about Arjuna's truth. Zeno, Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, they lived in turbulent times, collapsing empires, plagues, exile, betrayal. They faced the same question: how do we live rightly in an unpredictable, often brutal world? And their answer, like Krishna's, turned inward, not toward controlling life, but toward clarity. If it's short, play it short. If it's a beggar, play it well. And in that surrender, there's a different kind of strength, not loud or dramatic, but quiet, steady, and true. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, still wrote in solitude, "Don't waste time debating what a good man is. Be one." There's no performance in that, just clarity, just action. A voice reminding himself, character is stronger than chaos. If I don't care whether I succeed, won't I become lazy or disconnected? The answer is subtle. Letting go does not mean losing your drive, it means changing its source. You're no longer moved by reward or fear, but by meaning. You act not for approval, but because it's aligned. You shift from control to contribution. Presence is more enduring than power. And ego, however loud, is often mistaken. The teacher who prepares deeply for a lesson, even if no one notices, from chasing validation to walking in truth. This is the Stoic way. This is the path of Dharma. It doesn't promise ease, but it offers clarity. Days when you say, "This is mine to do. I don't know where it leads, but I trust the doing," the nurse who returns, day after day, with quiet care. These people aren't passive, they're powerful. Because they've dropped ego but kept their purpose. They live in that sacred space between effort and surrender, between action and release. What matters is not prestige, but presence. Your role may go unnoticed by others. If it's lived with integrity, it becomes sacred. That's where Stoicism and Dharma meet, at the intersection of power and humility. You stop chasing identity. You start embodying character. You become less concerned with outcomes, more focused on integrity. And slowly, the noise recedes, the path appears. You walk not to arrive, but to align. Real power, they both say, is not about dominating outcomes. Not what earns praise, but what aligns with who I am quietly. Honestly, Dharma and Stoicism are not opposites. They are reflections. Both ask for presence. Both require you to act and then surrender. Both demand a courage deeper than conquest, the courage to care without attachment. When you do what is right and then let go of what follows, it is one of the most radical acts in a world obsessed with results. It's about showing up, doing what's yours to do, and then releasing your grip. Not toward outcomes, but toward intention. Do your part, play your role. Let go of applause. Let go of fear. Let go. As a warrior, walking away would mean abandoning his essence. For he is not permitted to prove himself. In hardship, the Stoic sees a chance not to win, but to practice virtue. He said, "Don't seek for things to happen the way you want. Wish for them to happen as they do. Then you will be happy." That's the Stoic path. You don't control events, but you shape your response. You offer your effort, not your demand, and that, strangely, is enough. To prove that one's value is not in outcomes, but in effort. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means depth. It means loving the process enough to let go of the reward. To act, despite uncertainty, but without attachment. That was the beginning of spiritual maturity. Not blind obedience, but conscious alignment, action without clinging, purpose without ego. Behind him stood Krishna, his charioteer, his guide, and in that moment, the voice of something eternal. Arjuna's hands trembled. He dropped his bow. "How can I fight?" he asked. "How can I act when the outcome could be destruction?" And Krishna, with a voice calm as time itself, replied, "Do your duty, but let go of the outcome." That teaching, nestled within the Bhagavad Gita, became one of the most enduring calls to Dharma in human history. It wasn't about victory. Centuries later, in the colonnades of Greece and the marble corridors of Rome, other voices echoed the same wisdom. For Arjuna, Dharma was a sword. For Marcus, it was a journal. For Seneca, a letter. And yet they touched the same truth. When we cling to results, when our identity is bound to success or failure, we lose our freedom. A teacher's is not the same as a soldier's. A parent's is different from a poet's. You cannot borrow someone else's purpose without betraying your own. Arjuna couldn't flee to a monastery to escape his role. His path led through the fire, not around it. Krishna reminded him, "Better to fail in your own dharma than to succeed in another's." We chase shadows. But when we act from principle, when we live with integrity for its own sake, a shift occurs. We stop striving for control and start living in alignment. Dharma, in the Gita, is not about rigid rules. It's a living path. Each person's dharma is unique. The Stoics had their own words for this. Epictetus said, "Remember, you are an actor in a play, assigned your role by the playwright. Ego wants recognition. Dharma does not. Ego craves control. The Stoic lets go." Seneca, too, spoke of detachment with calm certainty. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. Epictetus, born a slave, taught with a limp and a quiet fire. As we explore these teachings, a shared message begins to shine. But still, a question lingers. If I let go of the outcome, how will I stay motivated? Think of the craftsman who perfects a detail no one else sees. The goal isn't to erase desire, it's to refine it. From needing applause to honoring your nature. And when you live like that, something softens inside. You stop measuring your life in trophies. You start measuring it in presence. So ask yourself, softly, what is truly mine to do? If you can act from that place, you are already free. In the next part, we'll bring this into daily life work, routines, relationships, because philosophy belongs not just in books, but in how we live. In a world ruled by performance metrics, likes, and public validation, the Stoic teaching of act without attachment to results can feel unrealistic. We're trained from childhood to tie our worth to outcomes, grades, promotions, followers, recognition. You stop riding the roller coaster of success and failure. You start showing up with steadiness. You begin to act from clarity, not anxiety. You understand that doing your best is enough. Instead, you ask quieter questions. Did I show up with honesty today? Did I do what I could, given the circumstances? You begin to see that your worth isn't diminished by setbacks, because your worth was never based on results to begin with. It was rooted in your character, your discipline, your effort. We want our kindness to be acknowledged, our love to be reciprocated in the same way. But people are unpredictable. They love in different languages. They struggle with their own burdens. Detachment means offering your best, your truth, your presence without tying your peace to their response. You are steady, even when the world is not. At the end of each day, write down one thing you did that felt true, something you did not for praise, but because it was right. It might be as small as choosing patience over irritation. It might be helping someone without being asked. These daily noticings recalibrate your compass. They remind you that goodness doesn't need an audience. After each task, whether an email, a phone call, or a creative effort, pause and write one sentence about what you're releasing. I let go of needing a reply. I let go of needing this to be perfect. I let go of needing to be seen. These sentences may feel small, but over time, they train the nervous system to unclench. They turn striving into surrender. Did I stay true to my values, even when no one noticed? Not as you wish it to be, but as it might realistically unfold. Think of a difficult conversation, a traffic jam, a delayed project. Now say to yourself, this may happen and I will meet it calmly. By rehearsing your acceptance in advance, you reduce reactivity. You become ready not for perfection, but for presence. Each morning, ask yourself, what is mine to do today? This question cuts through noise. It reveals when you're chasing attention rather than acting from clarity. And with time, it teaches you to act more often from the still center within. They only require a quiet intention, a return to the self, and a willingness to live from something deeper than praise. Over time, they form the foundation of a quiet strength, the kind that bends, but does not break. What task, responsibility, or gesture reflects the best of who I am? Do that thing not to control how the day unfolds, but because it's the next right step. Then release the outcome, but you can choose how you show up with presence, honesty, and care. Non-attachment doesn't mean emotional coldness. It means giving love freely, without demanding a specific form in return. It means allowing others to be who they are, even if that means they don't meet your expectations. These questions lead you inward, and from there, you begin to work not for status but for excellence. That doing what is right, even if unseen or uncelebrated, is still meaningful. You learn to accept that not everyone will understand you, and that's okay. You stop chasing approval and start choosing sincerity. You love more deeply because you're not loving to get something. In doing so, you free yourself from the past and the future. You become fully alive in the present. And the present, the Stoics remind us, is the only time you ever truly possess. You're loving because it is aligned with your nature. And so, non-attachment is not passivity. It's a deeper form of commitment, one that's rooted in values, not validation. To act without needing a payoff seems backward, maybe even naive. But it's this very pressure for results that makes detachment so vital. Not because results don't matter, but because clinging to them weakens us. When you let go of the need for control over outcomes, you gain control over yourself. And that shift changes everything. You're no longer a slave to fear or praise. You simply do what is yours to do, and let the rest unfold. Non-attachment doesn't mean not caring. It means doing the work with full presence without demanding that the universe reward you. In practice, this mindset frees you. Take your work, for example, whether you lead a team or answer phones, the same principle applies. Do your best, then let go. You don't control the economy. You don't control your boss's mood. You don't control whether your effort is praised today or overlooked. What you do control is your integrity, your presence, your focus, your intention. That is where your power lies, not in the applause or the outcome, but in the doing. This kind of detachment shifts your perspective. You stop comparing yourself to colleagues. You stop resenting those who seem to advance faster. When you work this way, even failure changes shape. It no longer defines you. It becomes feedback, not identity. The same principle applies in relationships. You can't control what others think, feel, or do. Most pain in relationships comes from rigid expectations. We want others to respond exactly as we hope. When you practice this, something softens. You stop arguing with reality. You begin to love more purely. And now, look inward. The deepest practice of detachment is internal. Don't repeat yesterday. Don't fear tomorrow. Just meet this moment with courage. This clarity is built through practice. One powerful habit is the Dharma journal. Another is morning Stoic meditation. Sit for 5 quiet minutes and imagine your day ahead. A third is inner dialogue. Ask yourself often, why am I doing this? Is it from a place of ego or from principle? One more, try the art of letting go practice. These habits are simple, but simplicity, repeated daily, is what builds inner resilience. They don't require a monastery or a retreat. In a loud world, detachment is not withdrawal. It is clarity, it is presence, it is freedom, and it is always available right here, right now. If today were your last day, would you feel at peace with how you've lived? Not with what you've achieved, but with whether you've stood true to the role that life asked of you. Because the applause is not the point is whether you acted with integrity. Whether you lived not by fear or by image, but by something more silent and enduring. Even if there was no reward, even if the result never came, you laid your part of the stone. You fulfilled the work that was yours. No one can take that from you. Not time, not judgment, not even failure. Just begin with one thing done rightly. Release gently. From there, you might find yourself less entangled. When you work, not for success, but for the dignity of your effort, you are resisting fear. When you love, not to get, but to give, you are trusting that your essence is already full. And when you let go of what you cannot control, you are stepping into a kind of power no one can measure. Less rushed, less desperate to be seen. Something soft might return to you. Presence, clarity, a kind of quiet strength that no reward could ever replace. The kind that builds one decision at a time, to act without bitterness, to give without bargaining, to serve without needing to be seen. But like all ends, this one is quiet. There's no fanfare here, just a small truth, soft and steady, waiting to meet you in your day-to-day life. In your work, in your relationships, in your solitude. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming honest. About doing what's right and letting go of the rest. Not in a way people may praise, but in a way your soul will recognize. You don't need to prove yourself today. You just need to act from alignment, to walk with care, to speak with honesty. And when your part is done, release it. Don't hold, don't chase, set it free. That is the practice, that is the path, and it is always available to you. But what is aligned with who I truly am, even if no one ever sees it? Even if you failed this morning, even if yesterday was hard, the only thing left is to act and then let go. There is no audience, just you. And the moment that asks something honest of you. Even if no one ever sees the effort you make, you will know. You will have your own quiet witness, and that is enough. Begin not with grand gestures, but with presence, with intention. With a single act done with clarity and surrender, that is Stoic Dharma, alive and breathing through you. If you can sit with that question, if you can act from it, you are already free. And that freedom will not come from results. It will come from your posture, from your discipline, from your quiet loyalty to what is right. You begin to trust more, worrying less. You don't rush into arguments or push your voice to be the loudest. That is what Stoic Dharma offers, not a method to get everything you want, but a way to move through the world with steadiness, with purpose, with enough clarity to act rightly and enough humility to let go. You choose your actions carefully, not out of fear or desire, but out of alignment. And from that space, you are deeply alive. This is not weakness. This is not giving up. It is what Marcus Aurelius called working with nature, not against it. It is what Krishna calls action done without clinging to fruits. It is what your best self already knows. That's not just peace, that's spiritual clarity. That is the spirit of Dharma, and it is the quiet strength behind every Stoic act. But you can, today, do one thing with deep care without needing it to be noticed. You can offer your best to a moment, to a person, to a responsibility, and then release it. Maybe no one thanks you. Maybe no one sees it. But maybe you'll sleep lighter tonight, having been true. They ask us, simply, would you still do the right thing? Even if no one was watching, would you be able to say, quietly, I did what was mine to do? Stoicism echoes this. You cannot control outcomes, but you can always choose your response, your posture, your virtue. Together, they point toward one life-changing idea, that right action is its own reward, and that doing what is ethical without attachment to results is the very foundation of inner peace. Many of us live driven by fear of being left behind, of not being enough, of disappointing others. But underneath all that noise, there is a simple truth. You already know what's right. And once you act on it, without demand, you are free. You don't have to perform. You don't have to prove anything. And if applause never comes, it does not matter. Dharma says, you don't need to win, you just need to do what is right. There's a freedom deeper than success. It's the freedom of knowing you acted rightly, even if the world misunderstood you. You don't need to be a philosopher. You don't need to read ancient texts or memorize moral codes. Let this be an invitation, not a command. You don't need to follow a system or sign a vow. In a world obsessed with metrics and praise, the silent act of letting go is a quiet revolution. That is courage, not the loud kind, the steady kind. And when you start to live this way, clear, present, and unattached, you become different. So now ask yourself, gently, what is mine to do? Not what will bring applause, not what guarantees success. You may not control the harvest, but you can plant the seed. And you can do so with care, with love, with surrender. And now, we arrive at the end. So breathe in, slowly. Let this idea settle in your body, not just your mind. You can begin again, right now. You don't need anyone's permission to live like this. You are already enough. You know what it is. Trust that. Live that and release the rest. Thank you for walking this journey with us. See you in the next meditation.